Notre Dame fans, welcome to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. It is actually still Saturday night.
I know.
Notre Dame with a 31-16 home victory over the Southern Cal Trojans.
Probably write that down.
That is now 4 wins overall in the series.
7 out of 10.
Kelly is now 8-3 against USC, and that is 5 straight at home. So Notre Dame ended a bit of a jinx, I think, tonight. In 2011, the Irish introduced the gold helmets the way that they are now for the first time and lost. Tonight, they introduced a really cool light show before the game.
It was actually pretty sweet. I will admit it.
They didn't lose this time. They got the job done.
And they did the light show a couple different times.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool. You know, they finally kind of stepped into the 21st century with LED lights. I kind of dug it.
Vince, there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about this, some things we didn't like about this, but at the end of the day, this was a game that Notre Dame controlled for 60 minutes. There was like a little bit of time in the fourth quarter where USC kind of made it a little bit interesting, but Notre Dame responded right back offensively and
with
defensively.
The offense.
Right. Yeah. And then the defense puts it away with the strip sack from Isaiah Foskey.
They brought 6 on that play.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. And trust me. We're going to talk about that. But this was a good win, Vince, and there's a lot to clean up. I think big picture, was this a coming out party for Notre Dame? And but it was, in my opinion, a step in the right direction. So to me, that was my big takeaway. It was not always pretty. They got the job done. Some of their dudes played like dudes when they needed them to. We saw some adjustments offensively. We saw some big plays defensively. We saw Notre Dame come out and they were just a better team today. They were the more poised team as well.
Yeah. That wasn't hard to do, but
it would have been really bad if they weren't. Yeah.
My big takeaway is that they actually did some self-scouting over the bye week. And it was obvious that they did that. And I made a joke on the message board that their self-scouting was listening to our podcast, which obviously, I'm just saying. But, they did almost everything that we've been asking for, which mind-blowing.
Which we'll get into when we talk about the offense.
I didn't mention anybody in particular, okay? I'm just saying that's my big takeaway is that they actually adjusted during the bye, and that was huge to me. That was huge to me because I was not anticipating it. So
big win. I mean,
it's a huge win. It is your rival, and you have no other even semi-rivalries on your schedule. And I don't care what anybody says about Stanford; they're not your rival, right? You can't have a rivalry with a tree. So
Navy's more of a traditional game.
That's not a rivalry though.
There's like a mutual respect. You're
absolutely.
Yes, this was a rivalry game, Vince, and it was a game that Notre Dame showed the recruits in the stands. They showed recruits that weren't there that are looking at both schools that, hey, the gap between us and USC, again, I'm looking at this from the Notre Dame standpoint, the gap between USC and us right now is monumental. And, you can go there with a new coach and turn things around, and eventually maybe by your senior year you might be good, or you can come here and help us compete for a championship right away. That's the selling point, and that's a great takeaway from the game. I thought the environment, from what I could tell on TV, Vince, was great. The tailgating situation today was great. I mean, not just ours. We had a great tailgate.
Ours was good, though.
People come out. A lot of fun, but just everywhere. There just was a lot of energy on the campus today, I felt.
Agreed.
I thought the crowd was good today. From what I could tell, Vince, you would know you were in the stadium. You would be able to tell better than I was. It's a great
I tried to mention it on the message board a couple times. I thought that I was nervous at first because it took a minute for the stands to fill up. They were not full at kickoff, but about 5 minutes into the game, it was full. And the crowd was good. And when the video board told people to get loud, they got loud. I mean, it was, for a Notre Dame crowd, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, I dug the light show. They did a light show before the game started. They did one between the third and fourth quarter during the 18-12 overture. And then afterwards, it was nice to see Notre Dame do something fun for the fans, which we haven't really seen, to be perfectly honest with you. So Brian Kelly kind of made a joke about it. He said, I was just happy the lights came back on after they went off, which I actually look. We've talked about Brian Kelly's sense of humor.
In the country, is feeling the same way. That's a good Brian Kelly joke,
and that was a good Brian Kelly joke
because there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. There's some truth to it.
Absolutely. And it was actually,
because you have to tell the football coach that you're going to do something like that.
correct.
I mean, I guarantee you, Brian Kill's
absolutely.
at least giving some kind of note, and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, right. And it was like, it was a mic drop moment for Brian
Yeah.
Kelly because he said it as he was walking off the podium at the end of his press conference.
Yeah, because that's more of a just off the cuff as opposed to his plan. But hey, Vince, here's the deal though. USC victory, 31-16.
let's roll.
Another win over USC, and we're gonna get into the offense and defensive performance. Let's get a couple super chats here. Place back to BF duties, watching the movie Dune. I saw the previews for that today. High tempo is Jack Cohn's home. Defensive line looked great. My prediction was 35-10. Go Irish. Yes, it was a good day in that regards. We got a couple more super chats here.
Hit them.
Let's get to it. Oh, wow. We got even more than I thought we did. Here we go. Let's get to it. Alex Udell, false start or not, BK should have let Diggs run it into the end zone and let that kid get in the end zone. Should have put another 7 on your rival.
I really wanted him to score at the end. I really did.
Yeah.
And I thought that they were almost going to accidentally score after Buckner got into the 3-yard line. But then the false start just kind of killed all hope that was going to happen.
I get it, but you got the ball at 2:45 left. Put that thing in the end zone.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like you got it with like 57 seconds
and I
left.
honestly did not have a problem with them running the ball because they were running the ball aggressively.
You don't run a reverse or
right.
Put it in.
I was fine with it, but man, I wish they would have punched it in.
Yep. Donnell Alfano with a super chat. Thank you for that, and thank you, Alex, as well for yours. But Donnell, thank you for yours. Bro eligible. Go Irish. They are. They're eligible.
You're right.
Yep. Patrick Barnes, Vincent Bryan, you guys have been calling for Reese to run an up-tempo spread offense with Cohn all season. They finally did it, and the offense looked like it had rhythm for the first time all season. I would disagree. It was first time all season. I think it was the first time since the Florida State game that we saw that.
Well, and I think it was the first time as a concerted effort throughout. You know what I mean?
It's clearly part of the thing.
For the most part, anyway.
And we'll get into that here in a second, but I want to I'm gonna think this is either Celtic Chase or Celtic Chase. I'm gonna assume it's Celtic because I'm just I'm assuming. Yeah, we'll see. Why did Slovis sit back patiently early on, going through progressions against our pass rush early? Didn't see much special attention given to London. Yeah, I agree with that. It was kind of strange. Now they made an adjustment in the second half, and London caught 2 passes. Until that final drive, he caught a couple ones on like that. But I mean, for the third quarter, they completely shut him down. He finally got going with that deep ball where he beat Clarence Lewis. But we'll go over that game plan here as we get into the defensive part. But yes, early on I didn't like it, and I think part of it was because Kyle Hamilton got hurt early, and I think that was the game plan, was to kind of high-low him. We'll get into a couple of those things early, but. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, I want to remember this one when we get to the defensive part. Vince, if you could just make a quick note of Celtic Chase's comment there, and then we'll kind of dive into it. And then Cameron T with a super chat. Thank you, Cameron. Just wanted to say, being from Utah, growing up as a Notre Dame fan, it's cool to find an Irish community to talk and listen to. Appreciate everything y'all do. Go Irish.
Love it.
So I'm curious, are you the person from Utah that was at the tailgate today? Or do we have 2 people from Utah listening to the show? I'm very curious about that. But thank you for the super chat, Cameron, and thank you very, very much. We had people from Canada stopping by the show today. Kentucky, Utah, Florida. We had a Just Ordinary Joe showed up today, rocking the Gap Closer shirt, had the IB hat on, had another Irish Breakdown shirt underneath.
I could have talked to Joe for hours. We were having a great time.
We had a family from Arkansas, wife, husband.
They were awesome.
2 youngins. It was great.
They were awesome.
Yep. They were a lot of fun. So we had a lot of fun there. Jim McCarthy says, thanks, guys. What did they do defensively to adjust to London? We will definitely get into that because there was a lot of that. JP Buellsfield with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, JP. John Harlow, did Kelly promise Buckner playing time as a freshman? He seems eager to play him even when Cohn is rolling. Sort of, but not really. It's just about Tyler Buckner's really dynamic.
Yeah, it's hard to keep him off.
I actually liked the way they used him in the
first
half.
I did too.
But Cohn clearly knew that Buckner was going to go in. Yes. It was clearly communicated because after that play, he ran right off the field. It was clearly communicated. He knew that it was going to be 2 plays. They threw twice with Buckner. First one was an RPO. And then second time, Next play, they ran like all verts.
The second half, when they brought him in for 2 plays, I did not like it.
Did not like that. But the first half, that was off the script. They were on the script in the first half.
Right.
But yes, Vince, I agree. I kind of like that. But yeah, they did promise him to a degree that he was going to chance. But honestly, we've said this. Look, Tyler Buckner's too good to be sitting on the sidelines. You just have to use him correctly. And when they did put him in the red zone at times, I said, okay, that's where you need to be.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. Because that opened up lanes for Williams.
Yeah. And also, John, thank you very much for that super chat. I appreciate that very, very much. Felix Fournier, watching Notre Dame football felt like watching Notre Dame football for the first time this season. Go Irish. That is a great comment, because there were things that, they got to clean up, and they didn't do this and they didn't do that. But yeah, they were more physical than USC. Yeah, they were
the most
disciplined.
Part.
I mean, they made mistakes execution wise, but like Jarrett Patterson gets pushed by the USC guy, doesn't hit him back. Kyron Williams didn't even know that the guy shoved him. Like, he was so oblivious to the USC guy that he didn't even realize that. But yeah, it was it looked like a Notre Dame football team. No question about it. Old Grim, I'm very happy the offense proved me wrong tonight. I agree. So that is it for the super chat so far. Thank you, everybody that's being part of it, Vince. Let's dive into this breakdown, Vince. And I want to start with the offense. And you kind of alluded to it at the beginning. All right, here we go. Please push the tempo. Check. Run RPOs. Check. I'm going to break down this game. I'm going to break this game down from the stats. I guarantee that he completed at least 10 of his passes in this game were RPOs.
And it was they were legit legit ride and read and pull and throw. Legit RPOs.
And it had USC,
and it wasn't RPOs where he needed to run, right? It was a legit, I mean, they're gonna hand it off or I'm gonna throw it. And
quick outs.
It's great.
Get Kyron Williams involved in the pass game. Check. Reverse engineer your offense. Use your passing game and use tempo to set up your run. Check. First half, check. Second half, minus. But spread the ball around. Just Jack Cohn, get the reach. Just get the ball out quickly. Empty out the backfield. I mean, all the stuff we've been talking about, Vince, all year was a check, until I think it was a Brian Kelly saying, hey, we got a lead. Because that's what Brian Kelly does.
He always downshifts.
Exactly what we saw in 2019. They got a big lead and they went away from what got them there. And it happened. Different offensive coordinator. We've seen it. We saw it in 2015. Same thing. And, to me, that's just Brian Kelly saying, hey, let's not take any chances. Let's run the ball. And it allowed USC to get back in the game instead of saying, okay, 24-3, let's put this sucker away.
Right.
And that's kind of what I would rather see. But that's a BK thing, not a Tommy Rees thing. I thought the part that Tommy Rees did was very good. My one beef in the first half was after the interception, the Bo Bauer interception, they went right to 13 personnel. And they were terrible out of 13 personnel the whole game.
Terrible. But they were really good out of 11 personnel.
The first touchdown, they went 13-13, got nothing, and they went 11 and throw a touchdown pass.
And it was out of the bunch, which I really I like them out of the bunch because there's a lot of things you can do out of that, especially with Michael Mayer at the tip, as the tip of the spear. I like that.
Yeah, talking about being you mean being in the boundary?
I don't remember what side they were on, but it was a set of 3. It was a bunch, and they had Michael Mayer up at the front of it, and then they had 2 receivers behind.
Stuff. What I liked is when they put Mayer backside and they had trips to the field.
Okay.
I liked that too. But again, we're talking about, but that's the thing, Vince, we're talking about 2 completely different things where you're using your personnel.
And they moved Kevin Austin around.
Well, and he got open several times. He dropped some balls, but
he did. But they moved him. Like he wasn't just in the boundary all the time.
Went for 14 yards.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
and then that set up some jet sweep action later where they didn't hand off, but now USC had to respect it and it opened up the run game. So a lot that I liked. I didn't love the fact that they went away from it in the second half. That's what I did not like about this game.
Because they downshifted.
They did. They did. Josh Phillips has a super chat. He says, I'm happy with offensive scheme going up tempo, spread with Cone as I've been screaming for weeks, but defense was let down
again
this game. I'm going to disagree with that, and we'll get into that when we get to the defensive part. And then we have a super chat from TJ0311. Thank you, my friend. So also got one from Christ Built 1218 with a super chat. Thank you very, very much for that. Feels good to be Irish, especially when we can mop USC all over the field. Much love from Hawaii, guys. Appreciate all that you guys do for the Irish community. Go Irish. So it's probably the sun's probably still shining for you, isn't it?
I would think so.
Is.
Aloha. I'm jealous.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
Jealous.
So it does feel good to be Irish today, Vince. But I think what I hope that we see from this game is I hope that this game is the launching point for what's going to come next. And this is the first time all year, and it was hinted about a couple times, Vince. This is the first time all year it felt like the Notre Dame coaching staff on offense said, okay, this is who we are. Mm-hmm. This is who we are. And they went away from the run game being the foundation, and it was about quick game, pass, screen. And what happened? Kyron Williams has his most productive running game of the season.
Yeah, he did.
It's not a coincidence.
Right. He was fantastic today. I mean, he ran the ball with some authority. I mean, 25 carries for 138 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he did a great job. I was very impressed with Kyron, and they just kept feeding him. And Brian Kelly said something about that in his post-game press conference, and he's like, look, we could tell all week that this is going to be a Kyron game. But that's great.
And they did such a good job of getting him the ball in different ways.
I agree.
He
had 6 catches.
Even like on the 3rd and long. I mean,
that was
Jack
awesome.
Cohn to be like, okay, we're running 4 verts, and it was
cleared everything out.
It's 3rd and 15. They ran 4 verts, and they released Kyron on an arrow route.
Right.
USC linebackers turned their backs, ran underneath the verts, and so Jack just said, "Get it to my stud."
Easy,
right?
Easy. And he made a couple. He made some moves.
His
obviously,
stiff arm was absolutely on point tonight.
Oh, it was great.
I mean, how many times did he knock off Isaac Taylor Stewart's helmet with a stiff arm? And so let's talk about the offensive line. Now we're talking about Kyron. We'll get back to the pass game.
Okay.
I think we need to talk about the offensive line right now with this conversation with Kyron as well. John Keever says, thanks for the hat. Go IB. Go Irish. He stopped by with his wife today, so I appreciate that. John Nestor, awesome. Super chat. Appreciate that very, very, very much. And Neil Wachter with a super chat. Anybody check the rivalry trophy case for dust? Because it has been sitting there now for 5 years. So, it may be a little dusty now.
And they have the original, too. Notre Dame has the original that they retired in 97. Yeah. So, I love that.
So, here's my thoughts on the offensive line. It was not a great performance in a traditional Notre Dame sense. They did not blow USC off the ball, although there was a 3rd and 6 on one. I think it was the 3rd quarter scoring drive. It was a 3rd and 6. I think they were in the red zone, and they ran for 5 yards on a play where they just like bullied USC off the ball. And then it got to 4th and 1, and then they ran a quarterback sneak and got it.
But here's the thing. They have rarely in the past just lined up and gone with a QB sneak instantly like that.
Yeah, and they did it twice tonight and got it both times.
I loved it. And
that requires a push. It does. And again, but they didn't, if you look at that, they didn't get a push on that 4th and 1.
Right.
They didn't get a push on a lot of Kyron's runs. They got almost no movement, I would say probably on 95% of the runs. But here's the thing. I'm not going negative. Here's the thing. Here's what they did. They got a body on a body, and they stayed engaged. Here's a perfect example. There was an inside zone play. I think it was to the left. Josh Lugg gets beat inside. But what he did was he stayed on the guy, and then he put the guy down. The guy reaches out from Kyron, and Kyron spins off of him and then runs for 12 yards. Was that a good play by Lugg? Am I putting check on it if I'm grading him? No, it was a minus. But he stayed engaged. He kept a body on a body. I mean, there were times where Kyron would just kind of sit back there and be like, yeah, there's nothing. And he'd bounce it. But when he was doing that 2, 3, 4 games ago, dudes were getting off blocks and they were getting to him for 2-yard gains or 2-yard losses. They kept a body on a body. The left side of the line was really good. That was the one part of the line that was really good.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
They had room to run on the left side. But
I was impressed by this group's compete level tonight. Again, not great movement. I mean, it wasn't, if you compare it to the great games from last year, it wasn't like that vintage Notre Dame. But Vince, we've said all year, if you just play solid football, give me effort, keep it, and just get a body on a body, you've got stud backs who are going to be able to do something with it. And that's exactly what we saw tonight. Pass pro, Vince, I thought was good, except for the one sack they gave up. They dropped 8 in a 3-man rush guy. It was partly a coverage sack, but also partly
it was also partly that there was only 4 guys blocking those 3 because Kane Madden was doing one of these and not blocking anybody, which was super frustrating.
Right. He had a rough night, I thought.
He had a rough night. And Lugg didn't have a great night, okay?
Yeah, but he battled.
He battled. I give him that. He battled, but he still
false start.
He struggled at times that was obvious to me. I thought Kane struggled tonight in the run game. There was one play, and I can't remember which one it was, but he didn't even touch the guy, and it ended up being a tackle for loss. Mm-hmm. He struggles, man. And look, I am ecstatic that they made changes on the left side. Ecstatic. I was the right call. It was the right move. I thought they did a good job. They need to analyze the right side.
Right.
You need to analyze the right side. I'm sorry, right guard isn't getting it done.
Right.
If I'm only allowed to replace one of those guys, it's going to be the right guard.
Sure.
And I'll live with Lugg as a try hard. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But right guard is still killing them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to be negative, but it's so obvious because the left side was really good for them. They were good.
I thought like there was one particular block. I think it was the 38-yard run.
Okay.
Where Kristofic and Patterson engage. They don't get great movement, but they stayed on the combo long enough to let Kyron get past the first guy, and then Jarrett comes off to get to the linebacker, and he gets enough of a body where the guy can't get to Kyron. Right. It was like, okay, that's the kind of timing, and I thought there was one time where Jarrett got beat up the field, but Joe Alt got a real nice seal, and Kyron was able to bounce out. So if you get that seal, because you know what I noticed, and I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again, Vince. Because what I didn't see tonight as much of is when they were running zone, I didn't see as much of this, like turning at a 45.
Right.
Which that allowed Kyron to keep bouncing it.
Yeah.
Because before they were turning, and then when you bounce, you're just bouncing right into the guys and getting off the block.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch that again. I don't know if they were running inside zone or if they were running mid zone all night, because on mid zone, you're going to keep more of a square base.
Right. There were a couple times
and see that
the ends were flying upfield and the tackles just took them.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Perfect.
If it's an inside run, you can do that because they're taking themselves out of the play.
He's going to bounce right underneath it. Exactly.
And I have no problem with that, because they're at least getting a body on them, which was not the case the first few games of the season. Yeah. So we'll take.
So overall, Vince, I mean, if they can replicate this offensive line performance at 4 of those 5 spots the rest of the year, I mean, but even then, even with the right guard not playing great, the other guys were at least solid enough to good enough to where they were able to get the job done. And
I agree with that.
Third down was good. The only time they didn't do well on third down was more of an execution thing or a drop pass or things like that. But overall, I was
they were 8 of 12.
I was pleased with the effort and the overall execution we saw from the offensive line. And again, if that to me is the biggest if we can just, and it's now 2 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
2 games in a row, we've seen that.
Yeah.
If that can continue, this offense is going to just keep getting better and better and better.
There were only a handful of times, because I was trying to pay attention more to the outside. That's what I do when I'm live at the game, right? I'm trying to look at the big picture. There were only a handful of times where the offensive line stuck out to me in a negative way. Mm-hmm. And that is a big time improvement from where we were at the beginning of the season, a huge improvement. And so they were actually able to run the offense with the offensive line.
Right.
That's huge. All we asked for was an average offensive line. They're knocking on that door right now. Okay. They're knocking on that door. And I realize that, there's these defenses aren't as good moving forward. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. The offense still needs to do what they need to do, and it starts up front.
Right. Got a quick super chat. I want to recognize Tyrell Wilson. We held a good USC offense to half of the 32-point season average, and still fans criticize the defense. Oh, by the way, The man who was going to blanket their best receiver missed most of the game. Tyrell, we will get to this, but by the time we get to the defense, your super chat's going to be gone. So I wanted to recognize it and tell you thank you for that. But we're definitely going to talk about that because I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised by some of the strong reaction of the defense, but also in some ways it's sort of understand some of the things. But yeah, we'll get into that. This is a good segue right here. John Rich's comment says it looked like Mayer's best blocking night of the year. Couple things about Michael Mayer. I thought he was a really big key early to the offense getting going. He was really sharp with his routes, Vince, and he did two nice things. On the option routes, he was really sticking that inside and whipping his head around quick, which allowed Cone to hit him fast.
Hit him in stride.
Which helped him, which helped him move the chains. And then he did a great job on that seam throw from Tyler Buckner. He did a great job of cutting across the face of the safety. So, like, he could have kept going vertically and kind of run through the safety. But instead, he saw that the linebacker was staying cut, and he cut right in front of him. So then when Buckner threw it, he was allowed to then seal off the safety. Great route. And to John's point, and thank you for the super chat, John, I wrote in my game observation, I'm going to have to break down the film to get like a play-by-play view. But when I saw Michael Mayer blocking tonight, I thought he blocked well. I did. I mean, I had 3 times I have notes, 87, check, block on the, you know what I mean? Like I thought he blocked well from what I saw. Now I have to go watch the film and all that, but I was impressed with the performance of Michael Mayer when he wasn't making a ton of big plays in the pass game. You meaning big plays, meaning like down the field. He had decent numbers, but he wasn't blowing it up. But he still made other contributions. There was I thought Cone made 2 big misses in this game. And I thought overall Jack played a really good game. But the first one was he underthrew Lorenzo Styles. Lorenzo smoked that dude off the ball. And Jack underthrew him. He tried to back shoulder it instead of leading him. And then he had good ball placement on the throw, like from an angle standpoint to Michael Mayer that got broken up in the end zone, but it needs about 2 feet higher.
But it was underthrown. It hit the guy in the back of the helmet.
He needed to underthrow it from the standpoint of he couldn't lead him because there was a safety coming over. But where he put it right here. It needs to be about 2 feet higher. So like where the ball went from where it was on the field was appropriate. He just needs to, instead of throwing it to where Mayer tries to catch it here, Vince, he's got to throw it to where Mayer catches it.
Right.
Because if you throw it to where Mayer catches it here, it's
a touchdown. Right? I agree with you because the defender hadn't turned around.
Right.
I mean, it hit him in the back of the helmet. And Mayer was trying to go over the top.
Gave
and
a great effort.
If it's
got to get that about 2 feet higher.
Agree.
Like the angle was correct, but it's just got to be higher.
Yeah.
Kevin Austin misplayed 2 back shoulders, and I want to get into those here real quick too. So Kevin did some nice things. Had a great catch of a low ball in the second half. I thought he blocked really well. I thought this was his best blocking game of the season that I saw from Kevin Austin. The issue is, however, he doesn't compete for the ball the way he needs to, and the way we've seen him do it in the past, Vince.
I've seen him do it in practice.
The first back shoulder on the first drive that was one of the worst plays of a back shoulder I've ever seen. Like he didn't even turn. He just kind of tried to go like this. You got to turn and I mean that should have been an easy catch. And there's a lot of people that have said, and we've seen it. There was somebody that had it in the chat. They talked about how Cone misplaced the interception. And I disagree, Vince. I want you to go watch this play on, or if you watch it then, but if you go watch it, Austin gets off the ball, and when Jack is like about to release the ball, Chris Steele jams Kevin Austin, and he stops and hops, and kind of his momentum completely stalled out. If he kept running the way he was when Cone releases the ball, it's a back shoulder perfectly thrown. But when he got jammed, so basically like he was here, which allowed the ball to be here and Steele to do it, right? And that's where he was when the ball was snapped, when the ball got there. But the way he released, if he runs the route correctly, he's here, and instead of it being here, it's here, and at worst, it's a pass breakup. It's not a pick. That to me was on Austin. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's on Cone. But if you go back and watch that route, watch that moment where Steele collisions him. And I think Cone's like right about here at that time. Kevin's got to play that better. He's got to physically battle better.
Yeah, and he didn't get his arms up for that either, which allowed Steele to get it and then bring it into his chest. If he doesn't bring it into his chest, then the 50-50 ball goes to Notre Dame. I mean, you know what I mean? But the fact that he didn't get his arms up allowed the ball to get all the way into Steele's chest, even though Kevin had his hands on it, which obviously gave him the interception. So, not
and there were some people that said
there.
it was a questionable call. We saw that from Jackson Everett, and by rule, I understand it being a questionable call. The rule is if it's a tie, it goes to the receiver. But I didn't really feel like it was a tie.
Yeah,
because I thought the ball was in Chris Steele's chest.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So
we got a couple more super chats real quick, Brian.
Josh Phillips was kind of thank you for that super chat, Josh. But he was talking about the same thing, the double possession. That's what we were just talking about, Josh. And we both felt, because Vince and I talked about this before the show. I asked him his opinion on it. We both felt like it was a proper call. I didn't think it was a tie. I thought Steele had the ball, but the guy on NBC, Vince, you couldn't hear it. He was saying that shouldn't matter. That if it's, I just kind of felt like I didn't.
It looked like he had more possession.
I didn't think it was
Kevin.
a double possession. I thought, yeah. So that's that. And then we have super chat from John A1. Yep. If I'm a grad transfer, I'm picking Notre Dame. They'll play you all 12 games, no matter how good the play is or how bad the play is. That's a great point, John. That's a great point.
Oh, God, love that.
So those are the two super chats we got. And then TJ0311 had another $2 super chat. Sorry, Vince.
Yeah, we both clicked it. Yep.
Yeah. And then TJ was excited. We were talking about the mayor ball. He said, holy poop. I said the same thing to my wife about Mayer and 2 feet higher. Yeah. It was where it needed to be from on the field it was. It just needed to be higher. And those are the plays that when you got a kid like that, and like Everett was great at that in 2012 with Eifert. He just said, okay, my guy's 6'6" with long arms. I'm going to put it out there and no one's going to have a shot at it. So to me, that was the 2 big misses by Jack tonight, where he could have had some big plays. So again, that's the thing though, Vince, there's a lot this line has to improve. But Avery Davis tonight, Avery's been so good this year, and he had some couple really nice plays in the past. His blocking tonight was terrible, right? That's the kind of thing you're just not going to see from Avery very often. He had a bad game in that regards, but then he made up for it with some clutch plays in the third down. We finally got to see, hey, guess what? When freshmen have to play because of injuries and you throw them the ball, they can make plays. Imagine that. Dion made a great job going down on that third down to make that catch.
He did.
And then
great adjustment.
Lorenzo Styles did a great job tonight. Because the long screen, it was an RPO. They were running, counter to the right. Jack read it, pulled it, got it out to low. Great perimeter blocking, and then Lorenzo just took it right up the sideline.
One man to beat too. I mean, the kid took a good angle. Obviously, it's not Lorenzo Styles' fault. The kid took a good angle. Good angles can defeat speed. But if that guy didn't take that angle, he's to the house. I mean, it was a great play. I loved it.
Yeah, I thought he performed well. So it was just there was nobody in the pass game that just played great. There was nobody in the pass game that just took the game over. Oh, wow, look what that guy did. But everybody got involved. And that's the thing that I liked about this performance, Vince. I'm trying to pull up the stats here to kind of see, to go over it. But that was the thing for me that I liked is it just, Kyron had 6 catches for 40-some yards. Again, not a huge
42.
night, but clutch. He had a couple really nice plays on screens. It converts the 3rd and long. Mayer went 5 for 54. Austin was 4 for 39. Styles 3 for 57. Avery Davis had 2. Deion Colsey had 2. Braden Lindsey had the 14-yard jet sweep. I thought it all around was just a good performance from the receivers outside of 5 plays. That's what I felt.
Yeah, that's fair.
The 2 plays by Austin, the 2 missed blocks by Avery, and I'm trying to remember. There was one other play that I didn't think a receiver ran a great route, but outside of 5 plays, I thought they played good football. They just got to clean up because those mistakes are big.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They got to clean that up. But it wasn't a lack of effort tonight. And I feel like as a coach, Vince, I can work on the technical stuff if you're at least willing to battle and compete. And like Kevin tonight, Kevin made 2 big mistakes, but his compete wasn't. It wasn't like this was different than the Purdue game. Like his technical game hurt him on those 2 back shoulders. But then he comes right back and he has that huge drop. I mean, first drive of the game, right? Kevin has 2 huge drops, and he could have easily gone to the tank like he did against Purdue or Cincinnati, but he didn't. He still caught 4 balls, and he had 2 third down conversions. He blocked well. That's part of the maturation process. You can say, hey, look, Kevin, man, you got to make that play. You had 3 opportunities to make big plays. You got to do this, but hey, there's some stuff to build on. Let's clean this stuff up.
Right.
And you got to get better here because he's got too much talent not to make those plays. And because we've seen him make them. He's just got to start doing it on Saturday, Vince. Any other thoughts on the wide receivers from you?
Not necessarily from the wide receivers. I love that they spread it out. I mean, you had 7 guys catch balls, which that's fantastic.
Well, and you got to think about who you really don't have anybody else at receiver, running back to catch a ball.
Yeah, the only other if
9
Chris
different
Tyree
guys
played, it would have been 8. You know what I mean? Because he would have caught a ball. But other than that, I mean, I spreading the ball around. I loved it. I thought the creativity was good, getting guys involved. I thought that they actually used RPOs more tonight than they have all season
since Florida State,
and it was effective. So
I'm
hoping to see them. Yeah, absolutely.
So
and I'm hoping to see them build on that.
What I meant by that is like one thing we've complained about is they just kind of run the same RPO over and over again. We saw the look screen RPOs. Some didn't work. You had the -2 yard loss to Braden Lindsey because of bad block by Avery Davis. You had the quick outs to the outside guy, which we've seen all year. But then we had some where they put Kevin Austin in the slot, and he just run a little 4-yard out cut and just Jack would read it and hit him, and then he catches it and turns it up. We saw that. We saw RPOs to the back. With the other back coming out. It just was there was some diversity, there was some creativity tonight, and look, first half I don't have a lot of complaints.
Yeah,
I really don't. I don't have a lot of complaints. I thought it was a well called game by Tommy Reese. I feel like in the second half that was more of BK than it was Tommy. But I'll say this: my final takeaway from the offensive performance, Vince, is this: when USC scored to make it 24-16. I'm thinking, well, we're going to find out what kind of heart this team has.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting ending. Yeah, there was like 8.5 minutes left, I believe, when that went down. Because I remember looking at the clock because my father-in-law texted me.
Notre Dame took the ball back over at 8:51.
Yeah, because he texted me, he goes, onside kick.
USC to win that. Yeah.
He goes, onside kick. And I said, no, it's too early for that. They don't need to onside kick. They can go down and try to get Notre Dame to a 3-and-out, and then they got a chance to go down and tie the game. So there was plenty of time for USC to make a comeback, and the offense went 80 yards and scored a touchdown.
Kyron had 6 carries for, I think, 34 yards, on the series. He had a 9-yard run to start, an 11-yard run, a 10-yard run, drew a penalty. Kevin Austin, who had had a role in the interception a couple series before, draws a 50 because he beat the guy inside, drew a 15-yard penalty. They never got to third down on the drive. I mean, they had 2 second downs. That's it. I mean, it was just a really efficient. The longest play on that drive was 11 yards. Oh, the longest play on that drive was a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
Right. But it was 9 yards, 6 yards, 2 yards, penalty, 11 yards, 2 yards, penalty, 2 yards, 10 yards, touchdown. Like that was a kind of like, okay, let's show what kind of. Yeah, I can't say that now because I don't know who's listening, but that's kind of like let's see what kind of heart you got. Let's see what kind of pride you got. Because I thought that the game plan in the second half took them out. There was no urgency in the second half. It was like, hey, we got a lead. And it's hard, Vince, to turn that sucker back on, right? I mean, it's hard when you take your foot off the gas. It's hard to rev it back up. But boy, they came out that next series and just went right down the field, and that was impressive to me. It really was. It really was impressive to see that. So overall, I'm pleased with what we saw from the offense. Still got to clean up the penalties. Got to eliminate those missed opportunities. Way too many missed opportunities tonight. You got to clean up. But again, I guess I'm probably more positive on it than I should be because of how many missed opportunities there were. But I just feel like in a lot of ways, this was a good step in the right direction for this offense. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I just want to address some of the stuff in the chat right now. Don't worry about the polls, guys. Get a good night's sleep. It doesn't matter what the polls say tomorrow. Right. It doesn't matter. The poll that matters comes out in about a week. Okay, about a week and 2 days. That's the poll that don't worry about it. It doesn't look. The bottom line is, if Notre Dame goes 11-1, they're in a New Year's Six bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It doesn't matter. Everybody just take a breath and get a good night's sleep, and don't worry about the projection on the polls. Okay, it doesn't matter. And we've said it before. The College Football Playoff Committee respects generally what Notre Dame does.
Right.
Okay. So worry about that poll, because we'll have a show about that poll on that Tuesday that it comes out. And we'll talk about it, and we'll all be like, yeah, that's probably where Notre Dame belongs when that one comes out. So just everybody, it's okay. Yeah. It's really okay. All right. And then we have a super chat before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian Madsen says, and first of all, anyone that spells their name Brian with a Y is aces in my book. I think the second down play calling can be more aggressive. You know what, Brian? Honestly, I'd have to go back and look. I'd have to go back and look at my notes to kind of see that. I didn't get that sense, but that doesn't mean you're not correct. It just means I didn't notice it, and I don't notice everything. But I have to go back and look at that. That's an interesting take. To go look at that. So, So overall, I think it was a well called game.
I do too. I was impressed with the fact that they sat down, they listened to our podcast, they wrote down everything that we wanted them to do, and they did it. I mean, what more could you ask for? I appreciate that. So it was good. No, but it was good. They used the bye effectively, offensively, and that made me. I was so happy. I was sitting up in the press box, kind of like a proud dad. I was like, "Yeah, okay, this is good. Okay,
been calling for that. Thank you. Been calling for that. Hey, just sweet, 14 yards. All right, cool. Thank you.
Right. So I was happy. I really was. I really was happy. So
yeah. So before we go into the defense, Vince, we have a super chat from Connor Patton. What do you think about the idea of a bowl game against Michigan?
Haven't we talked about this one
a little bit? Right now, I'm still focused on Notre Dame getting ready for North Carolina. I would love to see Notre Dame play Michigan in a bowl game. Would love it, because I think they would. If Notre Dame plays their game, they will smoke Michigan. But we still, there's a lot of football left for us to see. Whether or not they will actually do that or not, whether or not they will get to that level.
Correct.
So,
agreed.
Yeah, that. Let's just see what they do next week before we start talking about what they would do in a bowl game against somebody. I want to see what they do against North Carolina. I want to see what they do against Virginia. I want to see what they do in those kind of games.
Well, frankly, I want to see what Michigan does against some decent teams too. And look, there's going to be carnage in the Big Ten over the next few weeks, which is going to be fun to watch. I'm kind of excited. I get to watch a little bit of football next week because, again, we have another night game.
I can't wait for Monday's show. How does Penn State lose to Illinois? But we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there.
9 overtimes. That's how.
So Vince,
stupid overtime rule. Anyway,
let's talk Notre Dame's defense. We had a couple of comments about that. So my first thought was, I am so sick of them using 3-man fronts, and I didn't like it. But I have some thoughts as I've tried to really think about it, and I'm going to tell you what I think. You let me know what you think.
Okay.
So, first of all, I hate when Isaiah Foskey drops into coverage. Hate it. I mean, the guy barely pass rushes tonight, and when he does, he freaking gets strip sacks. 2 sacks, both strip sacks. Okay?
Yep.
Secondly, there were about 3 or 4 plays where he jumped right underneath a pass route and took a pass play away. When you go back and watch the game, there were several times
I believe you
where he got up underneath people. So it's like, okay, well, I can't get too mad about it because he's actually making an impact in the pass game.
Let me kind of expound on that. He's gotten better at it.
Yes.
When he first started doing it, he was terrible.
I still would never allow him to do it.
I wouldn't either, but he has gotten better at it. I mean,
yeah. He made plays tonight.
Yeah.
I just felt like this defense was at their best when they were in a 4-man front. They were super, super dominant. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, what would that have been if they were always in a 4-man front? Would they? Because there was a couple times even when they Foskey was in coverage, they completed a pass and he had to hustle out and make a tackle. What if he's rushing the quarterback right there? Yeah. So I'm trying to be more open-minded about it because I don't like it. And I felt like that too many times. But here's the other thought. We talked before the game, USC had scored at least 24 points in every game they played this season, right? I believe they scored at least 24 points in every game they played last season as well. And again, they didn't play a lot of games last year. Yeah, they scored at least 24 points in every game last year. Then so you'd have to go all the way back to September of 2019, the last time USC was held under 24 points. Here's what I think Marcus Freeman was doing. And I don't necessarily like it, but I'm just trying to explain it.
Okay.
So people don't understand it. I think his thought was, here's what we cannot do. We cannot let USC get big plays. Mm-hmm. We cannot give up cheap scores. We cannot give up a 60-yard play.
Sure.
I think he was basically saying, we're going to keep what you said.
Do you remember? I was just going to say on Thursday, I said
everything in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily like because this is why I wanted to bring it up first. Keep everything in front of you because make USC go on drives. Because here's one of two things is going to happen. Eventually, we're going to make a play or they're going to make a mistake. And that's what happened. I mean, you think of the first drive.
They made mistakes, yeah.
USC goes right down the field, or second drive. First drive, I mean, they ended it on the first snap. Jason Adamiola gets a sack and drives over. Second drive, they're going down the field, and they get the first down, and they were in the red zone. I don't know if it wasn't first and goal yet, but they're in the red zone. And he finally says, okay, 4-man rush, because, again, shorter field. You can have one less guy in coverage. Shorter field. He brings Foskey off the edge, strip sack, drive stalled, right? Then they had another drive where they let him go down the field, and then they brought a pass rush, 4-man rush. Myron Tungvaloa, it hits a guy, and as about two other guys are about to hit Slovis, ball floats in the air, Bo Bauer picks it off.
Yep.
It was basically, I feel like the game plan was, we're not going to give up a cheap point. We're going to make them put long drives together, and I don't think they can consistently do it. And you know what? They didn't. They couldn't. And I think part of that was USC being stupid. I mean, the clock management at the end of the first half was just like, oh, my God, that's why everyone on that staff needs to be gone after the season.
I mean, that was
but see, the thing is, though,
bad.
If you're Marcus Freeman, that's who USC is.
Yeah.
They're an incredibly undisciplined football team that self-destructs and turns the ball over a bunch.
For sure.
And it was like, we're not going to give up the big plays. Now, I don't necessarily like it. I would have liked to see them turn the heat up and get after it. And I think they could have forced more turnovers that way. And maybe, but look, they held them to 16 points.
Yeah. Well, and it was
the goal.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm scoring.
Look, that's why I said it on Thursday that's kind of what I was thinking that they would do. And I guess you talked me out of it. I listened to you, which I always do. But I was a little surprised that they ended up actually doing that. And they were basically daring USC to run the ball. And they did run the ball. I mean, they ran the ball 28 times. You can't call anything that Keaton Slovis did running because it was sacks and, whatever. He had 4 carries for negative 28 yards. But they ran the ball 28 times. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they normally do, but they don't run the ball 28 times. No. Okay. That's what Notre Dame was allowing them to do.
Right.
And look, I agree with what everybody's saying. There were some missed tackles. There were some missed run fits. I get it. I totally get it. Mm-hmm. But USC also did a good job of getting the ball to the outside and out leveraging Notre Dame at times. Some of those runs.
Not a ton. Yeah, not a ton, but yeah.
Right. But there was a couple where they out leveraged Notre Dame.
Right. I think what Marcus Freeman was saying in the second half, especially Vince, was you're going to have to beat us with somebody other than Drake London.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's get into that a little bit too, Vince. So first of all, the tackling tonight frustrated the heck out of me.
I agree.
Just the secondary. I mean, you've got the play where Houston Griffith has a guy dead to rights for a tackle for loss, and being barely gets a body.
He had him and then just kind of fell off.
He went high. You go right through his knees. Go because Drake London's 6'5" with long arms. If you try to go face to face, he's going to do to you what Kyron Williams did to USC DBs all night long. He's going to
he's slippery
on the ground.
Look, I get it. He's slippery.
But he's also long.
Come on, man. Yeah, exactly.
You got to go right through his knees on that play. And then you had Clarence Lewis missing tackles. Cam Hart had a bad miss. Although other than that, Cam Hart was really good tonight. I mean, they basically said they acted like Cam Hart had the plague. And they're like, we're going to stay away from that guy.
They did, yeah.
And there was a couple times they went underneath them, down play. He beat that corner so bad, the receiver so bad. The guy was in. I thought they were going to throw a flag on him just for how bad he beat the guy. He covered him so well. It's like, well, come on, that had to be a flag, right? But I mean, they just threw it away on a third down because Cam just
went out of bounds, and Cam was just standing there
out of bounds. Yeah,
it was great.
He was great, but he had that missed tackle, right? They got to clean. The DBs are doing too much. Going high, they've got to learn to go. You need to be putting your shoulder pad through his stomach to his knee.
Right, they need to
just zone right there.
They need to talk to a little guy because that's what little guys do to make tackle. They need to talk to my kid who always goes low to make sure that he gets the tackle. Right? I mean, it's elementary, but it works. And it's not flashy. It's not a big hit, but it works. And sometimes you need to just do what works.
So, a couple things. Number one, speaking of the DBs, I thought Tariq Bracy did a great. Brian Kelly talked about this after the game.
He was right.
Absolutely right.
He was right.
The one play they had a play where he didn't end up making the tackle. Drew White did, but he came up and just blew up. It was a screen pass. He blew up the lead blocker and just made Drake cut back inside. So let's talk a little bit about the Drake London plan for this game. Drake London ended up with some really impressive numbers to a degree.
He did. And and what do we? I would have never predicted that he would catch the balls that have 15 balls for 171 yards or whatever. I would not have predicted that. But we told you guys he was going to get his catches.
Yes, he had 9 for 109 in the first half, but going into the fourth quarter, he had 10 catches for 109 yards. Caught one pass in the third quarter. He caught that long 44-yarder late after Notre Dame had gone up. It was 24-10. It was on the series they scored to make it 24-16, I believe. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, first half, what they were trying to do was they were trying to bracket him with Clarence Lewis and Kyle Hamilton. The play where he caught the ball, the play where Kyle Hamilton got hurt, that was 100% on Clarence Lewis. Mm-hmm. They were playing cover 2.
Mm-hmm.
Cover 2 is 5 under, 2 deep. It's a zone defense. Your cornerback is supposed to reroute. So that's Clarence. So he's supposed to reroute, which basically means get a body on him, try to widen him or push him inside, but you want to widen him. And then you get in his hip pocket and you turn inside and you are going to go with him vertically until someone threatens the flat or an out cut. Clarence acted like he was waiting on someone to come out instead of reacting. And so instead of continuing to get underneath Drake until an outcut came, which it never
let
did.
Him run right by him.
4 verts. He lets him run right by him. Well, Kyle Hamilton can't get off the hash right away because they had a seam route right inside. So if they run double verts there, Kyle needs to stay on the hash until the ball's thrown. Clarence has to get underneath that go route. He didn't do that, and it just let him catch a ball, and then Kyle gets hurt. Their plan was out the window at that point in time because they were going to do what we talked about. Going to put Clarence on whoever he's going against, and they're going to let Tariq and Cam on, the other guys, and Cam shut those dudes down.
Right.
Well, then you lose Kyle Hamilton, and your game plan's kind of out the window. And I thought USC did a nice job of hitting the quicks and the outs. And Notre Dame, and I thought Clarence Lewis was late a lot. This is now 4 games in a row where the other team's picking on Clarence Lewis, and he keeps getting beat. I just don't know who the answers are. It's going to keep
happening
unless they want to play a freshman, because Ramon Henderson is not the answer.
He did not have a good game either.
And I don't know if putting Tariq Bracy outside would have been the answer too, because he's just so short. But second half, what they did in the second half was, I don't know if you saw this, Vince. They just started sitting Clarence Lewis right inside of Drake London. So at the snap, he would just be 2 yards inside. That does 2 things. Number one, is it takes away the slants and the inside, because he was beating them on quick unders and he was beating them on slants. slants and quick unders. So quick unders makes you go up like 4 or 5 yards, you delay, and then you just come right underneath, whatever's clearing out. And they were beating them, and Notre Dame wasn't getting guys underneath that. So what they did was they had, and then the other thing they were doing, hitting some out cuts. Well, if you play inside, you're taking away the inside breaking routes just by your leverage alone, which means you can now better jump out cuts. And they took a lot of that stuff away. Now, of course, that hurt him in the fourth quarter because they ran an out cut. Clarence overreacted to it, and then he beat him on a double move.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things where Clarence is just, hey, if he wants to catch a 4-yard out cut, let him catch a 4-yard out cut.
Right.
You're up 24-10. Let him catch an out cut. Let him catch an out cut.
And tackle him. Tackle him 4 yards.
And that allowed him. But if you look at the second half, he had 6 catches for 62 yards in the second half. 44 of them came on one play.
Yeah. And
they did a pretty good job on him in the second half. They really did. And it was that was the halftime adjustment. Clarence is going to take away the end stuff, and then we're going to help out over top. And basically what Notre Dame did was, hey, you're going to have to beat us with somebody other than Drake London. And USC said, we really don't have anybody that can beat you with Drake London, other than Drake London. Well, Keontae Ingram had a nice game, ran hard. I thought the USC offensive line played. I'll tell you what, where I came away impressed with USC is their offensive line could not block Notre Dame's defensive line when they were in a 4-man front. It just because Notre Dame's dudes are just way back. But I thought those kids competed.
Yeah,
I did, and they ran. They ran the ball well in the second half. But to your point earlier, Notre Dame was just saying, I'd rather you hand it off to Keontae Ingram than throw it to Drake London. Right. Keontae Ingram's not beating us. Drake London can.
Yeah, in the first half, Keaton Slovis had 138 passing yards. Right, and I sent you this stat at halftime. He had 138 passing yards, and London had 109. So that means 29 yards went to somebody else, and they only had 188 total yards in the first half. 109 went to London. Okay, so that means 79 yards went to somebody else. He had 109 of them. It was the London show, which is fine because he's not hurting you from a touchdown standpoint. Right. They again in the red zone, they did pretty good until the fourth quarter when they allowed 2 touchdowns.
Front. When they went 4-man, they could not stop Notre Dame. Could not block Notre Dame.
Right.
And
that's the frustrating part.
I get that. I get the desire to do other things with Isaiah Foskey. And tonight he did well in those things. But I can't watch how he pass rushes. He's got 8 sacks in 7 games, and he doesn't even pass rush all the time.
Right.
The one play, the first sack was like, I haven't seen a play like that since Stephon Tuitt was here. He comes off the right edge, takes his inside arm, and he just pushes the tackle off of him. He's got his left arm on the tackle as he comes his right arm and knocks the ball out from Keaton Slovis. You're like, how the heck did it was just, that's a grown man pass rush right there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then late in the game, he puts the game away with another sack. And it's like, what would his numbers be right now if they actually let him rush as much as they let Julian Aguara rush?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and that's my issue, I guess, because look, you're right. He did not do a bad job when he was lining up at linebacker. He didn't do a bad job, but what you're losing in pass rush, you don't make up for having him at linebacker. Right. That's my biggest issue.
Like even with him making a couple plays tonight, like getting underneath routes and stuff like that. But
look, Myron, I thought, had a great game. He got a lot of pressure today. He was involved in that one. I don't know if it was a sack per se, but there was a couple of hurries that he was involved in.
Including the interception. He was the guy right in his face on the interception.
Correct. I thought that Jason had another good game. He was right in there. That sack at the beginning of the game, that first play of the game, it just gave me flashbacks to, what was it, 4 years ago now, when the quarterback that's now with the Panthers was with Sam Darnold. Yeah. When they just harassed him all night long and they sacked him on the first play of the game, I was like, okay, Here we go. This is going to be great. And for the most part, they did a
Tavon
good
Coney
job.
just took the ball right away from him. Wasn't that the play where Tavon?
Yes, it was the first play of the game. It was like, okay, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But again, I thought that the front played very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you want to move on to the linebackers.
Yeah,
or you got more to say in the front. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, I have said many times, I have no clue why Bo Bauer's in on third down.
Agreed.
Tonight it was like, okay, hope he can do this every game. But tonight he made not just the interception, but he had a good pass rush. He had another pass breakup in the game.
He was getting into the backfield.
He did a pretty good job of getting up under couple seams as well. I thought this was, and even if you take away the return of the interception, I thought this was probably the best game I've ever seen Bo Bauer play.
Yeah,
and he actually got a lot of playing time on normal downs too. I thought the combination of Bo and Drew White, this was about as good of a Mike linebacker play as we've seen in the past game all year. In the past,
I thought they both made plays.
Yeah,
they both made plays.
Yeah. There was one play where they tried to run a little running back slide route, and Drew White just ate it up in the backfield, just ate it up.
And they gave him no gain on that play. That was
a 2-yard loss. I don't know what that was. A terrible spot.
There was no
close to the line of scrimmage.
No, and that was horrible.
The spot was about that far behind the line of scrimmage, so it was technically a loss, but it was a no gain because
they called it a no gain officially. Right. Yeah, right.
But that was a bad spot.
Terrible spot. And they pushed him out of bounds, so it's not even a forward progress situation because he tackled him out of bounds, but. Either way, I thought that was a terrible spot. So, but that was great coverage by Drew White because if he's not there, there's nobody else there. So he did his job and he did a great job doing his job. So I'm
going to have to go back and watch the film to see how JD played overall. The times I saw him in coverage, I thought he was good. Even the play where he got beat up the seam,
that wasn't bad coverage though.
It was a great ball.
Yeah,
that
wasn't bad.
When you have a 6'4" receiver against a 6'1" linebacker, that's exactly where you put that ball.
Yeah,
there's nothing JD could have done about that.
I thought the same thing. He ran with them. I mean, okay, in a perfect world, maybe he gets his head around.
Maybe
that
ball was thrown with some zip though.
Yeah,
and the tight end did a good job too because the tight end didn't put his hands up and wait. He flashed his hands at the ball. JD didn't have time to react to it. So, I mean, it's as a coach, you always say, hey, you always say, hey, here's a tool that maybe you could use on that play, but at the end of the day, you also just say, hey, sometimes. Those other dudes are pretty good players too. And they go play. Yeah.
Right.
I couldn't really notice. I have to go back and watch the film. I don't know if I could explain to you right now why they ran the ball so effectively against Notre Dame, other than Notre Dame letting them.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
That's something that I'll discuss tomorrow in the further review when I watch more film.
They were using Isaiah Pryor as a third safety. Whereas I thought maybe he could have helped a little bit closer to the box. But I think that was because of Kyle Hamilton, right? I mean, he ended up becoming that third safety because Kyle Hamilton was out. I thought maybe he could have helped in the run game a little bit. But again, I think Notre Dame was kind of allowing them to run the football. I don't know that it would have mattered, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what you have to say after you've watched the film tomorrow. And everybody pray for some rain tomorrow, so that baseball gets canceled.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, that way you'll be on there. I'll tell you what, Vince, I was shocked that for the first time ever, I think, maybe I say hyperbolically, that they called a targeting and reviewed it and properly ruled it in the booth.
Yeah.
The guy, I understand why the ref in the heat of the moment.
I totally get why he threw it. As soon as he hit him, I was like, uh-oh. And then I saw the flag come out. Like, I get it. Because he came in hard.
And he was behind him. The ref was behind him. So all he saw was the guy's head hit the ground and DJ hit him. That's exactly how he didn't lead with his – he didn't put the crown down. He actually led with his hands. Yeah, his face hit the guy's shoulder. But it was
and the helmet's grazed, but it wasn't a situation where it was helmet to helmet.
Correct.
And they called it correctly. Like,
yes,
that's in a perfect world. That's why you review the play,
right?
So that you can overturn something that really wasn't targeting, and they did it right. And the fact that it was a Pac-12 crew, everything told me that it was going to be the guy sitting next to me, who it was like, oh yeah, that's targeting. That's definitely targeting. And I was like, wow, I don't know that it really was, but they're probably going to uphold it. And the only thing I could think of the entire time was, oh, who's coming in at safety? Like, I wasn't really sure what the plan was.
Watts, baby, get him ready to go.
Seriously, yeah. But when they overturned it, I was shocked.
Pleasantly absolutely shocked, because they should have overturned it.
No, it was the right call, but I was shocked.
I also am trying to find out, did they outlaw throwing a flag for holding? Is that like not a thing anymore?
Well, they called a couple times on Notre Dame.
I mean,
they called holding.
The one on Takis was legit. Like, that's the first.
He grabbed right here.
A great block.
He should have just let it go.
Block.
Just once you're falling down, you gotta let go.
Yeah.
Because I still think Diggs gets that corner, no matter what. I think he still gets the corner
long enough. Yes, you're correct. You're correct. He had him locked long enough to where I think he would have still held on
a little too long. It was a legit hold call. I get it. That's fine.
But
so they were holding a lot.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Like the whole game, it was a little frustrating to be honest with me watching it. But yeah, but overall defensively, Vince, I'm just having a hard time on where I want to come down on this one. Just because
it was a weird game defensively.
I think that the comments about, the 3 down, I was infuriated by it. But you know what? I think it served the purpose of what they were trying to accomplish. And when he needed to heat it up,
he did.
He heated up, and it was effective. And when they got in the red zone and there was no more fear of a big play, he turned it up and held them to field goal attempts or forced turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, look, again, at the end of the day, you held USC to, was it 16, 17, 18 points below their season average. I mean,
correct.
If I'd have told you before the game that Notre Dame was going to hold USC to, that far, over 2 touchdowns below their season average, you'd have been like, that's a pretty good performance.
Yeah.
I think the thing that frustrates people is that you see what Foskey does and you see what your front four does when you're in a 4-man and you're like, why aren't you doing that all the time? And I think in Coach Freeman's defense, again, I'm trying to explain it. I don't, it's not what I would do. Right. So I understand it's not what I would do, but just because I wouldn't do something doesn't make it wrong. It's just, I think his thing was, let's just not give up the cheap score.
Yeah.
And let USC self-destruct. And they did. Or eventually one of us, our guys, is going to make a play. And both of those things happened throughout the night. And again, you held USC to 16 points.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So,
and they were 3 of 4 in the red zone, which they've only had one other time in this whole season where they haven't been successful in the red zone. So they literally doubled up the amount of times that USC has not been successful in the red zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they allowed 2 touchdowns. Okay. I predicted 17 points. They got 16.
Yeah. And they would have been right on 17 if they wouldn't have missed the extra point.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if, Notre Dame does a couple of things differently, I think they hit my 37 or they're darn close to it. You know what I mean? So it kind of played out the way I thought it was going to for the most part. But I think that the offense played better than I thought that they would overall from an overall scheme and execution standpoint. And I think the defense left a little bit to be desired for me overall. Look, the bottom line is USC scored 16 points.
Right.
And that's what I care about. Was it pretty all the time? No. We talked about it. We just hashed it out. But at the same time, they allowed 16 points.
Right.
So, okay, And the other thing I did like about the offense, and we kind of touched on this, the Tyler Buckner package was defined.
Yes.
This is the first time for me.
It was quick. It was get in there, make 2 plays, and Jack knows he's right back in.
It was so fast that I almost didn't recognize the fact that it was a new quarterback coming in and going out. Like it was a defined role, and we've been calling for that all season for it to be a defined role, and it was. And that made me really happy because it allowed both guys to be successful because they knew what their role was, and they weren't looking over their shoulder. And again, look, Jack Cohn, 71%. He's back to 70% completion percentage guy. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't blame the interception on him. I thought he played well. And I think if they move forward with this, they're going to be okay.
Underthrown balls in the first half, like Florida State. He's got to lead those. Right.
Agreed.
That was something I didn't like how they went away from being aggressive in the second half and then tried to dial it back up when USC got back in the game.
Right. That's tough. That's tough to do. I mean, it's really tough to do. And I don't blame the offense for not being able to just flip a switch. That's coaching. Like, don't take your foot off the gas, and you don't have this problem. That's my issue. And look, we have been watching Brian Kelly for 12 years, and he, for whatever reason, doesn't like to put teams away, and so we're going to continue to see that.
Right. And I could live with that if we were talking about him not punching in the fourth quarter at the end. I mean, to me, you know what I mean? Like, we could maybe, I would have punched it in, but I understand why he didn't.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you came out in the third quarter and went away from what had got you there.
Right.
And
because they could have put more points on the board. Right. Somebody in the chat earlier said that they could have hung 50 on you, and they could have. They absolutely could have. No question. And
I would say I think the offense played better. I'm not as happy with the play of the offense as you are because I still feel like they got to clean up some of the mistakes. Because the mistakes tonight were costly. Dropping the third down ball by Austin, not playing the back shoulder correctly, Cone missing 2 chances, including one for a score. The false start that took away the last one, which wouldn't have impacted the game, but I would have liked to have 38-16 instead of 31-16. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But again, it was a step in the right direction. It was.
It 100% was. Right. Yes, I agree.
And again, the defense did what they needed to do. They kept the points down. They held USC to their lowest point total since September of 2019. Yeah. Right. Was it the way I would have done it? No. That's why Marcus Freeman makes a whole lot more money than I do. So, because to me, a successful game plan is also, did you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? If I'd have told you before the game that Kyle Hamilton was going to go out like early in the first quarter with an injury and Notre Dame was going to hold USC to their lowest point total of the season by 8
years.
And their lowest yards and yards per play in like 5 games, would you have believed me, or would you have asked, "Does Drake London get hurt on the same play?"
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
well, it'd be the same conversation for me as if you told me last week that Michael Mayer wasn't going to play, but the offense was still going to score over 30 points.
Right.
Like that. It's the same type of conversation for me. You know what I mean? But with the offense, the reason I'm so positive right now, and look, we talked about the stuff that was bad, and I'm not blind to those things. We talked about it, but with the defenses that they're going to face over the next 5 games, if they build on what they did today, right, with the tempo and with all those different things, if they build on what they did today, this offense is going to be good.
Like, because the foundation was good, Vince. That tempo, spreading the ball out.
Yes.
Using the pass to set up the run and using RPOs, all that was good. That's where I'm saying is, like, if you can clean some stuff up, Notre Dame, like you said, whoever said that, Notre Dame could have hung 50 on them today.
Yeah.
And I think and I got to get this for my guy Paul Hamilton. So Paul swung by
I've been sitting on that one.
He came by the show or by the tailgate today,
which was awesome.
Thank you to everybody that came out tonight. John Keevers, who left a big super chat early, came by with his wife. It was a ton of fun. We had people bringing their kids.
It was so cool.
It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Like this tailgate, and it's no offense to the people that showed up at the first one and not the second one, but there were more people at this one, and it was so much more fun.
All the people that were at the first one were also here on this one, except for Tommy Guns.
Okay.
But yeah, there was more and more people.
It was awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
I really enjoyed myself.
Paul is a huge Tyler Buckner fan.
Yes.
Apparently, somehow Tyler Buckner helped him meet his current girlfriend. So that's another reason. But he says Tyler Buckner with ice in his veins to end the game. It was great meeting both of you then on the IP tailgate. So that's the joke behind his comment.
Yes. Paul, thank you for your service. He's headed to San Diego to start his active duty. Just graduated from the Naval Academy. So thank you for your service, Paul. Really looking forward to hearing from you and how things are going down in San Diego. And
got to watch Malcolm Perry during one of his times at the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
So yes, but yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for your service, for being there today, and for being such a huge Tyler Buckner fan.
Yes, so we need you. That's
we appreciate you very much. But we had another super chat down here.
We
Vince.
Did. Yes. From
we
Ashley Hill.
Got one from Ashley and from Richard Maltby. So Ashley Hill says defense didn't look sexy or vicious, just efficient and effective. But there are beasts on defense being held back because of game planning. I would say to a degree, I get that from the standpoint of yes, you're not turning Isaiah Foskey loose as much as we would all like. I get it. I wouldn't say he's being held back though. I mean, honestly, if I'm an NFL team, this was the best film I could have gotten for Isaiah Foskey. Good against the run. When they did turn him loose as a pass rusher, he was nasty, but he made plays in coverage, like taking away things in coverage. I mean, this was the best. If I'm his agent, this is the first game I'm sending NFL teams.
Sure.
So it's holding him back from like having like a 4-sack game. But in the modern NFL, if you can be 6'5", 250 and show that you can actually drop in coverage and get up underneath the curl route, things like that, that's where you want to be. So I understand where you're coming from, Ashley. I do. But I think the game plan tonight, I don't like it. It annoyed me because it's not what I would have done. Things that aren't what I would do sometimes annoy me. But if we're being honest and objective, the game plan was effective.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, maybe if they'd have done it my way, they would have held them to 16 or fewer points. I don't know. But it could have also been a situation where you hit a few more deep balls to Drake London because you're not, dropping it. So I get it. I do. I think the first part of what you said is true. I understand why you said the second part. I do.
Yeah.
Because I want to see Jason Adamula turn loose more. I want to see Foskey turn loose more. But I understand why they did what they did tonight. Got another one from Richard Maltby down here. Richard with Super Chat. Thank you, Richard, for that very much. The offense left something to be desired, but Styles at least showed out. I think they left something to be desired from an execution standpoint, which is my point. But I think Vince's point is also spot on in that. But we saw the schematic and philosophical changes. And if they can build on this and not revert back to what they think they should be against future teams, I'm excited about what this team's going to be moving forward. I really am.
Me too. We got one more super chat from Jacob down here.
Sorry.
That's all right. A little double click action. He says, I'm worried. Thank you, Jacob, by the way, for the super chat. Appreciate it. He says, I'm worried that the other defenses won't expose this type of play calling. We'll get into the New Year's Six Bowl and we'll get exposed by a good defense. Thoughts? Here's the thing. If the game is close, they're going to continue play calling the way they should. It's if they get a 2-touchdown lead, it's then, let's hold up. That's the problem. And then you allow teams to get back into it, et cetera, et cetera. If it's close, I think that they go tempo and they're doing whatever they need to do on offense to keep the ball moving. I do think that. So I understand where you're coming from, Jacob, but that doesn't worry me as much as it has in the past.
I guess for me, Vince, if I were to say first half, I'd be like, Jacob, buddy, I disagree with you strongly. I think the play calling in the first half was really good. Outside of, again, I pointed out the 13 personnel after the interception. I didn't like that at all. But if you're referring to the second half, I'm with him. I'm with him because a better team would have taken advantage of that and maybe made a stop on Notre Dame, right? So I get that one. I get that one for sure. But
I saw that.
So I mean, I think a really good defense could expose Notre Dame because I still don't think their offensive line is great. But I think but this is my whole thing this was not the offense has arrived. Everything is
Agreed.
wonderful.
Oh, I agree.
If they went out and play this way the rest of the year, they're going to go to the playoff, win a national championship. That's not what tonight was. But tonight was a really good step in the right direction. And you clean up a couple of those things. Cone's got to make a couple throws better. Kevin Austin's got to make a couple catches better. Avery's got to block a little better. The line has to finish off a couple more plays better. There's stuff to clean up. But I think the foundation was strong. Honestly, if they would have come out tonight and scored 38 points doing what they did in the past, I'd be less excited about what I saw.
Yeah.
Because USC sucks. I mean,
they're not good. They're not good.
They're not a good team.
And we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that USC's not good.
Notre Dame should have beat them by more.
Yes.
Clean some stuff up. But the things that they have to clean up weren't because of effort. They weren't because of a lack of focus per se. You just didn't execute them well. As a coach, I can fix that, right? I can fix that this week. I guarantee you if I was Notre Dame's receivers coach, Kevin Austin's never, ever, ever playing a back shoulder throw the way he did in this game.
Sure.
And I'm hopefully Coach Alexander will do the same thing. I'm just making a point of how quickly you can fix it. What you can't fix is when kids aren't giving you effort. And I never questioned that tonight. And again, so because the scheme was what it was, because the execution wasn't what it needed to be, I'm a lot more pleased by that than they executed a flawed game plan really well. And that was my point. If they would have run 12 personnel heavy and just ripped off a few big plays and took advantage of the fact that USC sucks and scored 38 points and had more yards, I'd have said, yeah, because this was what we talked about before the game. My fear was they were going to come out and do the things they've been doing, and it was going to work because USC's terrible.
Right.
And the rest of the defenses are terrible, and they're going to get a false insecurity. And exactly what Jacob said was going to happen. They were going to win out because the teams they play suck, and they get into a New Year's Six Bowl and get embarrassed. I don't feel that way coming out of this game, Jacob, because I feel like they made – to what Vince talked about at the very beginning, they made the schematic and philosophical adjustments for one game at least, and hopefully they do it again next week.
Right, and that's going to be the key.
That says, hey, they can clean. It's so much easier to clean up the things that they made mistakes on tonight. It's easier to clean that up than say, hey, boy, we kept trying to do this game plan. Hey, let's try and change now on a short week, on a normal week where we don't have the extra self-scouting time. So I'm happy with what they did today. Can they keep doing this? No, because North Carolina is going to be better than USC is, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's where we're coming.
They're more complete offensively. I'm not sure the defense is a whole lot better, but we'll talk about that this week.
Oh yeah, got plenty to talk about. We got a super chat from Anthony L. Kyron greater than Bijan. Is 23 a top 3 captain in the Kelly era? Oh boy, that's I'm gonna have to say no. And I love Kyron, but I mean, we're talking about Zach Martin, Quentin Nelson, Harrison Smith, Manti.
There's a lot of choices because he's had like 6 or 7 a year. It seems like.
But just some of the dudes he had. I mean, if you just think about some of the captains that Brian Kelly has had in his career, Harrison Smith was a captain. Zach Martin's been a captain. Quentin Nelson's been a captain.
Now, look, I think he's
2011. Harrison was the only captain. He was the only weekly.
That's true.
That's
because they rotated it, and
with other than him, Manti in 2012 with Zach. I mean, their captains in 2012 alone: Manti, Zach Martin, Tyler Eifert, and Capron Lewis Moore. It's a pretty good group of captains right there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That is fair.
And then Zach was a captain the next year. I think Robert Hainsey was a great captain. Jalen Smith was a captain. So if we're just looking at playmakers, Jalen was a captain. I don't know if I would put Jason over Kyron in some of the other areas where I think captaincy is important. But Drew Tranquil in 2017 and 2018. I mean, Alex Bars is a captain in 2018, basically coached the offensive line the second half of the year. So I feel Alohi Gilman, I feel you on that, but I would not want to have to pick 3 guys out of that group for my top 3. Because then I feel like, okay, I'm leaving out. Like if I were to pick Manti, Q, and Zach Martin, just off the top of my head, then I'm like, oh man, but I forgot about Harrison Smith. I forgot about Robert Hainsey. I forgot about Tyler freaking Eifert. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, boy, there's been some good captains. Now there's been some years where you're like, I don't love this captain group. Like that's why they have 7 because they have none. You know what I mean?
Right,
but
exactly.
But yeah. And Kyron has to be that guy because they don't have anyone else like him on offense. They really don't. And today, I mean, I thought last week, Vince, I felt like Kyron had the best game of his career.
Agreed.
Just with just some of the things he did and I thought he was even better this week.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely. He's getting better and better.
If he had last year's line, he'd have ran for 250 yards tonight.
And that's the thing. As
that's not a knock on the offensive line. It's not me trying to take a shot. It's just
it's you taking a shot at USC.
Every single it's not just that, but he maximized every single available yard tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the way he does that. I love it. I mean, he gets every extra yard possible. I mean, his rushing yards, for the season, half of those are on him.
Oh, at least.
At least. I'm being concerned.
Tomorrow, Vince, and you read my players of the game, and I have anyone other than Kyron on offense, you have permission to come over to my house because you live close by and like back open, like front. You can play front hand, backhand on my face.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's funny. He was good, and Neil, and this to me, this is what captaincy is about right here. Neil nails it, and thank you for the super chat, Neil. It says Kyron's effort is starting to permeate the rest of the offense. His tenaciousness is infectious, and he's important, and he is as important a captain as we've ever had. Again, I don't know if I would go
for this group.
Yes,
I will say that.
I mean, I could say a similar thing about Quentin Nelson in 2017, right? I could say the same thing about Robert Hainsey last year and Lee Meichenberger. I mean, so I get where you're coming from, but just, yeah. I like this comment right here from Coleman Clark. Kyron Williams is a better version of Autry Denson and Darius Walker. I can't say that I disagree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
There's I got to throw this up here. Bang 1801 says Dante Williams said that he felt USC just ran out of time. He must have forgot that Notre Dame kneeled inside the 10. Look, what do you expect him to say? I mean,
I would have not expected him to say that. Don't say that.
Well, he's got to get on a plane with these guys, and he doesn't want to lose them.
Say, hey, look, you know what? We battled. I'm proud of this team.
We battled to the end.
On the road against a top 10 team, and we just got to execute better. But don't say we ran out of time because this ain't 2019. Like in 2019, Clay Helton could have said that and been like, yeah, he's right. Because I felt like if there was 2 more series in that 2019 game, Notre Dame was going to get beat.
Yeah,
Notre Dame was about to put that thing in the end zone to make it 31-18. Or 16, right? Or 38-16.
38-16. And they could have easily.
Hey, you know what? Let's put another minute back on that clock.
Yeah. If they do put another minute on the clock, they score.
For it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And then Rye says, is Jaden Thomas on this team? I keep hearing that there's only 5 wide receiver scholarship players right now. We said 6.
That? Yeah, because we heard that the first time and we counted and we're like, wait a minute. And Jaden Thomas is the guy that I forgot, but no, he's still on the team. I think I've heard that he's been banged up.
Okay.
I've heard that he's been kind of battling being healthy all year.
You go.
I don't know if he's healthy right now, but he's still on the team. Because it's not that there's only 5 scholarship players on right now. It's that there's only 5 healthy scholarship. Because Joe Wilkins is still on scholarship. He's just injured.
Yeah. It's healthy wide receivers. Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of the thing there. So, I know he was like banged up in fall camp. I know there's been a couple other times, but I'm not sure what his current status is, to be completely honest with you. So,
I saw that. Probably not wrong. That's the thing.
Vince, you got any other comments that you saw up there? There's a lot of love for Kyron tonight in the chat.
And there should be.
A lot of love.
And there should be.
There absolutely should be.
Yep. Yeah. There absolutely should be. My takeaways from this game, offense, I like where the offense was, but there's still some stuff to clean up. Defensively, it was pretty obvious what the plan was. And people have to understand that when your best player goes down, it changes what you had planned. Okay. Mm-hmm. It does. It changes what you had planned. Okay. And that's what happened tonight. That's what happened. So I thought even with Kyle Hamilton being out, only allowing 16 points, that's a win. That's good stuff from the defense. Again, stuff to clean up. Sure. And then the atmosphere. I thought the atmosphere was really good. If I'm a recruit and I'm sitting in that stadium, I'm feeling what it's like to be at a Notre Dame game, or what I hope it's like at a Notre Dame game. If that's the only Notre Dame game I've ever been to, the atmosphere was there, and they brought it. From the lights and the night and the music and the band and just all and look, the crowd, every time USC did something with their band or what, the crowd was booing. I mean, it was a good crowd. I appreciate they booed the band director when he was directing the national anthem.
Who did? USC's fans?
No, Notre Dame's fan, because it's always the opposing band director that directs Notre Dame's band, right? They introduced him, and the whole stadium boos. Like they were.
There's a lot of energy there today, man. You could even just feel it in the tailgate, and we've tailgated a lot before, and you just kind of see people. There's a lot. So
I liked it. It was good. They brought the atmosphere, and look, we have said the opposite many, many times. And so I've got to give credit where credit is due. I thought the atmosphere was really good, and I'm interested to see if it continues for North Carolina next week for the night game. So
we'll
it's
going to be important there. It's going to be important.
It is.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right. So
and he's right. They booed Kelly when he kneeled down at the end too.
Yeah,
they wanted blood, and I wanted it too.
I completely understand. Again, I understand why he did it. I still don't like it.
I just to say I don't have to like it, but I understand it.
To me, there's a difference between what he did in 2017, which I thought was appropriate. It's like they came on the fourth quarter and Chip Long threw like a bomb, and he was like, no more of that, right? You were up 49-14, I get it. And that was also paying USC back for what Sarkisian did in 2014.
Right.
When if Sarkisian wanted to, they could have hung 70 on Notre Dame in 2014.
Yep.
I mean, Notre Dame was playing like, who was that guy? Jacob Matuska at defensive line. They were so injured. They were so banged up. And they won what, 49? It was the same score, 49-14, or was it 42-14? I can't remember. I think it was 40. I think it was the exact same score. I think it was 49-14. And he called off the dogs. I mean, he went on that one like 20-some play drive where they were just like running it. I mean, it was like run play every time. And Kelly repaid him in 2017. You repaid him, right?
Right.
But you've paid that back. Punch it in at the end,
Yep, exactly.
Plus, it's an interim coach, so it's not like,
who cares?
It's not like
Let
you're
them
doing it to
remind them who's your daddy.
It's not like you're doing it to a guy you're going to have to face again next year is my point.
Exactly. Put them on the plane, send them home, enjoy it.
Yeah.
A
lot of comments about the Notre Dame defensive line, and I got to say that I guess at the end of the day, when I think about the defensive ends, I get what Marcus Freeman's doing, but I just would have a really hard time not turning that group loose more.
Exactly, because they can create so much havoc, and your secondary doesn't have to be perfect when your defensive line is as good as Notre Dame's.
Yeah, you really don't. Yeah, Yep. All right, so I think that is going to do it, fellas. I think tonight was a great night for recruiting.
Yeah.
The list I got today was 100 plus kids supposed to be on campus. That's
crazy. Today. I had no idea it was going to be that many.
Yeah. Our guy Brandon was over at the player walk where all the recruits that were there. There were so many recruits they didn't have them come with the team because normally the recruits walk with it was 100 guys. You'd have more recruits than football players.
It's 100 guys plus family because the family gets to walk too. Yeah.
So, great night recruiting. Great atmosphere. Convincing win. Whether they punched in at the end or not, it was a convincing win. I think there's maybe 5 minutes where I felt like
Right.
But, because Notre Dame missed a field goal too. I mean, they missed their chances too, but convincing win over a rival, a lot of recruits there at night, great atmosphere. And from what Brian Kelly said post-game, Kyle Hamilton's injury is not serious or long-term.
Right. He did not have that sleeve on his knee in the second half, and he was walking around on it.
Yeah.
So I was really worried, and I put it on the message board when I got the binoculars out, and I was kind of hunting for him, and he was sitting on the bench, and the sports psychiatrist was talking to him and like kind of rubbing his back. And I'm like, that's not good, So that's great news if it is accurate. And I don't know that he would say it if it wasn't. He's repeating the information.
I think he would have said, we got to get more x-rays. We got to see more.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Right.
And can I just end with this? There's a lot of rumblings that James Franklin is going to be the next coach at USC.
USC.
Can I just say that what makes this day even better is if that turns out to be true, his team also lost to freaking Illinois today.
9 overtimes. and Monday, we will talk about the weekend that was, and we will talk about the overtime rule.
Oh, yes.
I
did not know that was the rule.
I didn't either.
Until I thought it was after the second overtime, you have to just go for 2 all the time.
Right. You can score a touchdown. You got to go for 2.
No concept and maybe I did at the time, but I just blocked it out. I had no idea. We didn't have another super chat from Anthony L. If Maris was healthy, would the defense be significantly better? I don't know about significantly. Would it be better? Yeah, I think so. Because I think you could do different things with him in the nickel and some things like that. But we don't know how good Maris would have been. I mean, he was having a great camp, but I don't know.
But you also have to remember who replaced Maris. JD's had a great season.
Yeah, I think where I could say, I think a night like tonight would have been a night where we probably would have seen more of Maris than JD.
That's fair.
And so at least you'd have that bullet to use as opposed to where like you don't really have that thing. I thought, speaking of Will linebacker, we saw Prince Colley doing some nice things on the kickoff coverage team tonight. He was running down there. So yeah, I think it would be better because you'd have just another athletic guy to use. Like, here's an example. Do I think having Maris would have made Notre Dame better against Toledo or Wisconsin or Purdue or Virginia Tech? No. Do I think having Maris would have made Notre Dame's defense better against Cincinnati? Yes. Because you'd have had that long athletic guy against those long athletic tight ends. We'd have seen more of Maris that night. And I think tonight would have been another one where we would have seen Maris playing a lot more tonight. So
yeah.
That's my stance. So, Vince, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Everybody, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. Great crowd at the tailgate today. Great crowd in the chat tonight. Great numbers for 1 o'clock in the morning. This is awesome. Although getting off of a night game, being done at 107 is kind of, or 108 is like, whoa.
Win.
Win. Yeah, because Vince is getting old, man. He can't stay up that late anymore.
It's gray in his beard. All right, it's time to go to bed.
Don't shut up, okay, Vince? I
don't want to grow it out. Okay? Why don't grow it out, brother?
I don't want to hear a word. But hey, everybody, thanks so much. If you came by the tailgate today, I really appreciate it.
So much fun.
For all of you that are in the chat tonight, I really appreciate it. Give us a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. If you're listening via podcast, give us a 5-star review. And we will be back tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. We'll be back for our Upon Further review. I'll at least be here. We'll see if he's going to be here or not.
If there's rain in the forecast, I'll be here.
Yeah. But we'll break down the film. We'll have it tomorrow night. And then, of course, Monday, we'll be back at it with our review of the weekend of football, comments on Brian Kelly's press conference. And then Tuesday, it's North Carolina week. It's ready to start North Carolina week. So I'm really looking forward to that. So have a great night, everybody. Thanks for being with us. We will talk to you again soon. And remember, before you go to bed tonight, tell yourself, Notre Dame spanked Southern Cal again. Take care, everybody.